Around 1 o'clock, he was born, and in my mind, I kept thinking, oh God, please, I want to hear him cry. And he did, and he cried. Apparently, the room was just filled with different doctors. I don't remember any of that, but my husband does. I remember one nurse telling me, we want to just let you hold your child and for a little bit because we need to get him stabilized. They laid him on my chest, and I remember looking into his eyes. He had dark blue eyes, and I remember the look in his eyes when he looked up when we connected, and I remember it was as if he was telling me, are you going to take care of me? I remember thinking, well, they've said this, they said that he passed this test, or he passed this milestone. And the last one I thought was the brain. We get to the hospital, and I remember walking into that room. Normally, you would hear all the just alarms going off, all the monitorings going off of all the different babies that are in that nursery. And I remember that night, for some reason, all the lights had been turned down low. And I remember seeing Patrick's isolette, and the curtain had been pulled around his isolette, and I was like, oh wow, they're giving us privacy. The naive side of me. The doctor sat us down, the nurse left, and he said, his ultrasound came back. I'm sorry to tell you, but Patrick had a severe brain bleed on both hemispheres of his brain. I remember the whole room just getting completely dark, and I remember not hearing anything else. All I remember was him saying, if you want his life, the quality of life to improve, there needs to be a stay-at-home parent. When you're given a diagnosis like what he was given, you have to think about your child and think, yes, you are giving me percentages as a doctor, but what can I do as a parent to make sure that he has that can change, that can be different for his outcome? As a parent, we all want our kids to have a chance.
Pretty much from day one, we've known that he's going to have to be a fighter, and he has been. By the time he was 2, he had been through about half a dozen surgeries, and I think you kind of forget because he did so well as a toddler, and as he started getting into school age, we started seeing more and more places he was struggling, and I think as he grew older, there tended to be more of a gap between maybe him and some of his peers.
I have little anger issues. I'll blow up and take it out on other people, and I know I shouldn't do that, and it's not the right thing to do, and kind of that was the main thing I struggled with, was making friends at school and in my neighborhood. But sometimes I'll get negative about myself, and even I don't like it. Sometimes I'll feel like I wish I wasn't born this way.
One of his doctors asked us if he did a summer camp, and at that time, nighttime was a little bit difficult, so I kind of almost dismissed it at first. And the first thing for us, as parents, obviously, you're thinking of safety and how are any of those areas going to be covered. And as soon as we found out it was kind of a 1-to-1 counselor to child ratio, and got him signed up. And when we arrived, I think I've gotten so used to, whether it be at a birthday party or a new teacher, there's a process that you kind of go through sometimes, and I think parents with kids with special needs can relate to, where you kind of feel like you have to pull the person in charge aside and give them a few pointers or prepare them for certain things. And I can remember standing in line with his counselor. I felt like I needed discreetly let him know. And as soon as I started explaining it, he basically said, yeah, we talked about, he had already talked about it with the director. He's like, when we were reviewing his file, we talked about that. Here's what I'm planning to do. And I mean, it was just something you haven't experienced before where, hey, we've got you covered, don't worry about it. And that was a moment that I was like, wow, he's gonna be fine, he's in good hands. At an hour and a half later, he didn't want to leave because you guys had introduced him to his cabin mates, and they did some orientation activities and worked on posters and stuff. And from that moment on, he was marking days on the calendar until camp started. So it's pretty neat.
I think when people describe things to me, I think to myself, oh, it won't be that fun. But like when I actually get there, I'm like, whoa. It's exactly what my parents described. And that meet and greet, I was like, I'm not sure I want to do this. Then when I got there, I kind of got into it and started talking to people and making friends. And I really enjoyed it.
I remember arriving the first day to drop him off, and he had met his counselor previously. As we're getting out of the car, he comes running up and hands him a bag of like toys and a blanket and stuff for the trip up. I went through the check-in process, and by the time I'm done, he's got them all the counselors have the cabin mates together and they're talking, and it's just so neat. I mean, you could just see the excitement behind it.
I really like the theme nights, just the crafts and the cafeteria, and kind of mostly like everything.
I think for us, just knowing that you can feel safe, you can feel like your kid's, not just that he's going to be taken care of, which is obviously very important, but that he's going to have a great time, that it's going to be a worthwhile experience.
So that's kind of been our quest, is how can we improve? What can we do in his life to give him a better chance at life? And as a parent, always looking for those opportunities and hoping that someone else is going through that.
I'm not the only one who has disabilities. I am not the only one.
He's made some friends this year that seems to be just enjoying the social life a little bit more this year in school, and I would think that some of it came from just making those connections at camp and having really having the time of his life.
Still remember to this day those memories of summer camp, and I would want to go back next year because of how much fun it was and the friends I made.
I think in general, it was one of those experiences that I would like to think we all have as children that are kind of foundational memories, that you just kind of build on.
Knowing as a parent that you want something for your child and having it met, I think is it's one of those amazing surprises that Camp River Run did for our family.